Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now the end of May of 2023, and given that there's a lot of things going on right now between the Indiana Jones franchise and the Star Wars franchise under Disney's wing and especially Kathleen Kennedy's control, to some degree at least, there's been a lot of things happening with, of course, Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. We are now just about 30 days out from its release date in theaters, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that's going to connect with the audience, what kind of response it's going to get after we saw what happened with Cannes Film Festival. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support, and without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the subject. Now, what's interesting about all of this is that we know that Harrison Ford is one that has been giving these odd interviews where he seems very uncomfortable, he doesn't really know what the story is about, he really can't give fans a direct answer on what this movie really is or consists of, and that's a little bit worrisome, I think, for The Dial of Destiny. Now, recently Kathleen Kennedy, at no surprise, she was able to talk more about Indy 5, and talking more about the audience, talking more about the premature backlash, as she likes to call it, and what she feels about the overall fan reception so far, and the critics. And we also know that Kathleen Kennedy has been really trying to save this movie with last-minute edits behind closed doors to make sure that Disney is going to keep her as the head of Lucasfilm to run things all Star Wars, right? So moving on to the next thing here is that right now Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy has been promoting Indy 5 and the Acolyte to both Star Wars and Indy fans the past couple of weeks. However, recently she was able to address something, of course, to the fans directly by delivering the following. I think those that are calling themselves fans and giving our fifth Indy film lots of criticism are nothing more than those that are scared of female empowerment and diversity, and quite frankly, I think it's very unfair that we are getting such criticism before a film has even arrived in theaters. It's just childish behavior, to say the least, and irresponsible for people to be acting in such a way. These films that we make are not meant to be life changers, and they don't lead to childhoods being torn apart. We like to view these projects of ours as simply just pure entertainment, to lose yourself in the theater for a little over 2 hours at a time. So, before I get to the next thing that she talks about, let me just say one thing here, is that these films do absolutely change people's lives, and they absolutely do potentially, rip apart their childhoods to a degree. When you look at what happened with Star Wars, when you look at what happened now with Indiana Jones, this is something that people grew up with. They hold a lot of nostalgia. They have a lot of memories of these movies connected to other memories. It's what makes these movies so special, is because they have a specific magic to them, and that's the great thing about George Lucas's vision. That's the great thing about Lucasfilm, or at least what Lucasfilm once was, that Dave and John now, by the way, are trying to turn around. But what's interesting all the more about this is how she goes on to pull that diversity and female empowerment card again, labeling these fans, as she's calling them like they're fake fans, the ones that are raising, opinions and criticism over this movie already. She's labeling those people as afraid of change, afraid of empowerment, afraid of equality, stuff like that, and it gets really tiresome after a while having to explain this, but this has been around for decades. We've had very powerful figures that have been women in many forms of pop culture, be it movies or TV shows, especially in the movies. I mean, Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley, just to name a few there. We've had so many prime examples of powerful figures like that, and I'll never understand to this day why they keep pulling this card. So, this is the next thing that I think really stands out a lot about what Kathleen Kennedy has to say about Indy 5 and the overall Star Wars franchise. So, she goes on to elaborate further. I think everyone who loves Indiana needs to know that you shouldn't trust everything on social media when it involves the ratings of this film, especially when said people have not even seen the movie yet. Both Harrison and James feel like they did an amazing job working on this movie, and that not only brings in a new powerful hero played by Phoebe, but how we can pass the torch down properly to her as one of the big icons of this film. That is our motivation to enhance the story and to expand the indie universe. Again, she's talking about Phoebe Waller-Bridge being the character that's going to get the torch passed down to her, essentially, where she's going to be considered like the saving grace of this film. And again, this is where the problem does lie into the plot, is that you're focusing away from Indiana Jones then. This is similar to what Kathleen Kennedy did, by the way, in the Kenobi series with Reva, with young Leia, and all the like, and it really didn't really focus on Obi-Wan Kenobi as much as you would have expected. So again, Kathleen Kennedy has pointed this out numerous times, and she has also made it very clear that this movie, it's not necessarily just about Indiana Jones, but it's more or less around the lines of him following his goddaughter, Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, by the way, across, of course, time, essentially. This movie's going to have a lot to do with time travel, apparently. So, moving forward, she goes on to conclude, and I can see us making more indie projects after this one. The loud, opinionated fans to us are not really fans, but rather audience members upset with our direction of focusing on some issues in the industry that needs to be fixed or gain more recognition from people around the globe. Now, I think it's crazy for Kathleen Kennedy to think, even in the slightest, that they can even make another Indiana Jones project after this one. And she kind of talked about this a couple of days ago, that there are gates that are open to creating more indie projects, be it TV shows or something like that. Now look, we know that the TV show was shut down a while ago, all because of the test screenings being a very big failure on Disney's end for Indiana Jones 5. And here she is again, talking about opening up more projects related to this indie universe. She did say, however, that Harrison is done. He's not coming back. So what would these Indiana Jones projects really be about? Well, it's pretty safe to say it would be all about Helena, the goddaughter, very easily. So this is the thing about Kathleen Kennedy again. So when you look at stuff like this, we know that they are going to be having a big premiere this month, or the month of June, I should say, and it's going to be interesting to see what the critics are going to be like coming out of that one. Now, the Cannes Film Festival was unique. You had unique types of critics there, and I was very surprised that they had no restraints at all. They really gave their true opinion on things, which usually, if you're a critic, they're usually more lenient on being a critique, especially out of a big premiere like that, especially coming out of a big blockbuster like Indiana Jones. And if you're getting that kind of response from critics out of a big movie like this by Disney and Lucasfilm in France, that is a problem. That is a very big problem, and I think that you're going to get a similar response with the next premiere that will take place in the States. So anyways, guys, with that being all done and said, I would love to hear each and every one of your opinions below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon,